Primary age child, I'm trying to teach him how to be outspoken in regards to questioning instructions from others and challenging where he feels unjust and doesn't just agree with an opinion. In school, challenging is not welcomed.
No.
Yeah. And has been seen as disrespectful. I'm trying to teach this as a way to ensure when he gets older, he doesn't kind of follow his peers and has a strong sense of self. What do you think is the best way to navigate this? Look forward to your answers. Thank you. Sorry, just to add, he is overall he's seen as quite a model student.
Cool.
Not a lot of negative behaviours. Who wants to go first on this one?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think I always say to people, it's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. So if he wants to challenge the teachers, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Teachers, adults, yeah.
Yeah.
Friends, peers.
Then I guess the parent just has to guide him into doing that in a non-confrontational way, which, as we know, with adolescence, is no mean.
He's primary.
feat. Oh, of course, he's primary.
Yeah.
Well, they're more malleable at that age. So I guess maybe doing like role play, for want of a better phrase. If the teacher does that, how would you respond to them? He might say, oh, miss, I think that's not fair. And then the parent can say, well, it might be better to say, miss, can I just share my thoughts? And just, kind of rehearse different scenarios.
Nice.
Well, I'd agree. I think it's time and place is what, when I look back on my own behaviour, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and so what you're trying to teach your kids always is there's a good time to challenge and there's a good, as you would say, how you would say it as well. And no teacher enjoys being challenged in front of the whole class. But most teachers, when you pick up with them at the end of the class quietly, miss, can I speak to you about this? Sir, can I speak to you about this? Will respond in a very kind of mature and sensible way. Thinking about audience and purpose.
I have a slight challenge to that, and I think this is based on my own experience. I was a rambunctious little black boy who grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. And I know, and also in my own experience, I am going to add the element of race to it, how sometimes little black boys are perceived when challenging authority. And not just boys, because it's a boy here, but children of other races, we have natural perceptions of, oh, well, those group of people, they're quite meek and mild. So how they may approach it is fine. However, I view those group of people as quite challenging and rambunctious. How, because you now have to introduce your child to the element of perception and race. How do you do that? Because it's something I know my mum struggled with greatly. Because I'd come out and say, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. Even though I didn't speak like that. I don't know why I put that. I didn't speak like that. No, I didn't. But I had a habit of just blurting things out. I was 7 and 8. I did have a filter, but I knew what I was saying. I had a keen sense of justice. I especially didn't like when adults would say little comments or put children down.
Yeah.
And I would always challenge that and get into a lot of trouble. Whereas I know if some other classmates of mine challenged that, there wouldn't be. So how do you navigate that element there with a child?
Do we know the age of the child?
Primary. I get the impression it's a key stage 2-ish child.
Yeah.
So key stage 1, I don't think I would be inclined to have the race conversation with them. If they were in year 5, year 6, getting ready for transition, then yes. And, just be candid with them to say that even though it might not be your intention, there are some people in society who may view you in a stereotypical way. So you need to be mindful of the way that you communicate with people because of those preconceived notions. Yeah, that's my initial answer to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I speak as an outsider, obviously, as I'm not a black parent, but I remember talking to our mutual friend, actually, the deputy head, and he was saying, I'm going to have to talk to my children about their experience of being black children in a school, but I can't decide at what age to do that. And I think that must be the really difficult thing for black parents to think about. When do I do this? When do I make them aware that people are judging them differently because of their complexion more than anything else? And there's no right answers. You have to do things when they feel right, I think, and when you're confident that your child can start to cope with this stuff. And I'm not quite sure when that is for every child.
I think it is different. It's almost like the when you begin to introduce the birds and the bees conversations, not to equate the two, but it's about the level that the child is at. Because even though my son now is 17, I'm still having to have certain conversations with him, because he is quite a strapping young lad, shoulders. So, and I went somewhere with him recently, and I could see people looking at him. And because obviously I'm not that cool, he doesn't hang out with me that much. So I don't walk around with him that often. And we was, and I looked at him. I said, the people assume you're not the age. He goes, yeah, people always think I'm older. I was like, yeah. And he told me about this interaction in the gym with a lady. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you're aware, there are these huge things all over the internet about gym etiquette and ensuring that women feel safe. And it's a big thing. And he had this interaction with this lady, and he had to explain to her, like, I'm really sorry, I'm only 17.
Yeah.
I am not, I'm just starting to come to the gym. I'm not really aware of certain social etiquette.
Oh, interesting.
And she was completely diffused because she was very ready to be quite defensive. How dare you, so on and so forth. And he said, I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, those conversations, you're gonna have to prepare your child for different conversations at different stages. So at the time, now it's going to be a conversation with the teacher. It may be how to manage yourself in a workplace setting, conversations that, unfortunately, if you especially have black boys in London, how to manage yourself around the police or certain levels of authority. These are conversations that are just going to have to be had.
So what you're saying to this parent really is to imagine this conversation as the first one on a long continuum of conversations, and to kind of pick up some key threads that you want to always come back to, and to kind of decide what those threads might be. And in a funny sort of way, the primary classroom is probably the safest place to first have those conversations, especially if the parents had the opportunity to talk to the class teacher beforehand. Because it's different to secondary school, where you have 12 classroom teachers plus another 20 or so staff that might be supervising at any time in the day. In the primary classroom, it's generally one teacher, one TA. And so to actually be able to say, this is what I've asked my son to start to kind of negotiate, and could you respond in an appropriate way and perhaps give him the feedback on how he's speaking to you and how it's affecting change, that might be a nice soft way to kind of start this very long journey.
I like that.
Yeah, man, I like that. That's why he's the boss, isn't he?